When it comes to Big C's MX-5 Challenge, the competition is like none other. It was only a few short weeks ago when Robert Hartley won his second straight series championship. This afternoon, though, more than 50-plus drivers have followed the country roads to West Virginia to try and start their own title runs. Drivers like Maxim Bunovich, Sonny Kanchan, and Marcel Hajnon were contenders in all of Season 2 and began threats to win it again, this time around, whether it's in victory lane or the championship. The question is, though, will Hartley win his third series championship in a row, or will we see a new face come out on top come in a few weeks? Only time will tell as we welcome you to the first GTR Countdown to Green of Season 3 of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge for the virtual Summit Point Motorsports Park at Summit Point, West Virginia. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me to move today is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is the director for this series in Sean Ambrose. He's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. Once again, today's free race coverage is presented by GTR Simulator. GTR's racing simulators are currently used as training aids for professional race car drivers. You too can learn to ace that braking, sharpen those corners, and shave off those vital seconds. Whether you're a professional driver or a gamer looking for a more immersive way to play, GTR has your back. Get yours started today at www.gtrsimulator.com. Now, Taylor, this facility may be known by many iRacers alike, whether it's on the rookie side of things or even some of the higher up kinds of race cars. What can you tell us about this short 2-mile road course for today?
Of course, and welcome everyone to the beautiful Summit Point Raceway. This 1.9 mile or 3.1 kilometer 10-turn course is a fan favorite, as well as a very tricky course for beginner iRacers. Its twists and turns, as long as the high-speed corners, can provide a challenge for even the most seasoned of veterans. To give you, the fan, to see what it is like to take these Mazda MX-5 Global Cup cars around this track, let us go on board for a GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we're in the GSRC MX-5, so let's do a lap around Summit Point. Coming down the front stretch, turn 1 will definitely be the best place to pass on the whole track. It's got the longest straight, so the draft will come into play, and then you hit one of the slowest corners. You really won't find any more ideal conditions anywhere else on the circuit. But if you're under attack and defend on the inside, watch out for the over-under on the exit of the corner. The good news is, turn 3 is the opposite direction, so even if your opponent gets underneath you, since this turn switches them to the outside, they'll probably need to completely clear you to get the pass done. Watch out for the crest on the exit though, since it'll be easy for the car to push out into the gravel. Then there's the scary turn 4, which will need a little lift to keep you on the proper racing line. This leads directly into the braking for 5, which is sometimes jokingly called yard sale corner for how often accidents happen here. But now we start into the technical back half of the course with the carousel. It's going to be pretty much single file through here, but your run off of it can make a big difference in your lap time. If you get it just right, the S's of 8 and 9 are flat out, and you won't need the lift until the final corner. But despite the high speeds you'll reach coming up to 10, this is a surprisingly fast sweeper with very little braking. That makes overtakes pretty uncommon on entry. Because it leads back onto the front stretch, it's much more important to ensure you set yourself up for a good run off the exit. This should keep you safer from attack into the first corner. But if you kept it together, you've now hopefully finished a lap around Summit Point.
That was Joe Peak with your GSRC lap guide as you're looking at Jerome Domales Torres, a part of the top 5 in the final point standings for Season 2. But of course, there's a lot to go over before we start with the green flag to start Season 3. Taylor, let's start off with those race details, shall we?
Of course, and of course this is a 10 race championship here that we see with the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. Of course, the race distance will be about a 40-minute race with 1 pit stop required. That is going to be mandatory for these drivers. The setups that we'll be using today is going to be the iRacing baseline setup, so that way it's just all driver skills that will be needed. No setup adjustments at all. Of course, no incident caps, so no matter how many times these drivers go off track, the only way they'll be out of the race if they have received too much damage on the track. Of course, though, the only thing that's interesting with this series is only the top 15 will score points in this event. So, a very big field of cars, close to over 50 cars here in this race. So, 15th or better will be a good thing for these drivers to try and get the points to win this championship. Of course, and another thing also to realize is the fuel will be limited for these cars. So instead of a full tank of fuel, it'll be about 3.3 gallons or about 12.5 liters. So drivers are going to have to definitely use pit stop strategies to determine when to come down pit road. And Justin, this race is going to be quite interesting. A very large field of cars as we see right now.
Absolutely gigantic field of cars. In practice, they were running the 120s to 122s. They've already picked up a few tenths, a lot of those same drivers, though, because as you might have noticed, there is a lot of clouds over the racetrack. 79 degrees Fahrenheit, the track temp at the moment. Partly cloudy skies at 78 degrees Fahrenheit in sim, with some very slight winds currently towards the north. That is, to be specific, blowing essentially down the front straightaway from Paddock Bend all the way to turn number 1 with some humidity here. But it's going to get curious with the amount of traffic we're going to see today. A lot of newcomers, a lot of which, some of them come from the oval side, that can make things very interesting to challenge a lot of the veterans.
Most definitely. And this is going to be something very interesting to see, especially later on in the race when the leaders are going through lap traffic. The driver's going to have to be so careful to definitely put the points on the track in order to get by the competition. And Justin, it's going to be very difficult, especially when the field gets started bunched up at the start of the race.
And as the drivers continue to work their way around for qualifying, still about 7 minutes plus to go in the session, 15 minutes total for the drivers. Why don't we quickly look over last season's championship to recap quickly. It was a thriller of a championship where Robert Hartley, as mentioned at the top of the broadcast, won his second championship. Second straight championship, won with 2 races victories, rather, on the season. Bunovich came away second. Pagnon, Torres, Alon with Brandon Hawkin rounded out the top 5. It was a competitive season to say the very least. A season in which we've seen 6 different winners find their way to victory lane.
That just shows you how competitive it is this entire series. I mean, we'll probably possibly see the same thing again this season. Of course, a much bigger field, though, so a lot of new faces and definitely a lot of the returning favorites. As we see right now, Maxime Bunovich is currently sitting at the top of the leaderboard as we are on board with Robert Hartley in 6th position.
Of course, Hartley having a heck of a past couple seasons in this series. At all times, again, can be seen on the left side of the board, about 6:25 to go on the clock as they continue to work their way down. There's a few different interesting parts of this racetrack, though. It's not per se a drafting track. It's kind of a mix of a couple on straights where you can get runs, but a lot of technical corners that could potentially cause a lot of danger spots in, say, the carousel, turn 1, as this race gets underway today. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it is going to be very difficult. The carousel is probably one of the more trickier corners here on the circuit. As far as it may seem like it could be a high speed, but too much speed can take you off track, and we've seen time and time again some cars into the barriers.
In some cases, in some different series, we've seen cars actually nearly flying to the trees off, say, Paddock Bend and get into trouble. So track position could be key as you're looking right now at Melissa Mann, who is 17th in qualifying. Melina Mann, pardon me, that is currently 17th on the board, currently working with a few different drivers, and it's going to get interesting again to try and secure these times. Some drivers are working at couple groups of cars. Others are looking like they prefer the clean air, so to speak, on the racetrack.
Yeah, several drivers will try to utilize the slipstream to gain that extra tenth that they need, especially on that main front stretch. We'll be utilizing a lot of drafting scenarios, but for the most part, during those tight section of the course, especially in the back half, we'll see some drivers wanting that little extra space between each other in order not to cause any serious situations. As we see, as Melina Mann comes across the line, she does not improve her lap, or does not improve his lap time, so we'll have to keep an eye, see what they can do this last lap as we are closing in on the final few minutes of this qualifying session.
Look at Catali, meanwhile. He is currently 3rd on the board at the moment. The high-speed simulator sponsored machine currently just a couple tenths off the pole, 1,000th in fact, off a 2nd spot. among some of the drivers that are looking to make a statement here, and things are getting shaky in qualifying as a car stopped at the bottom of the racetrack, checked up that lap time for what was a 7th time around the circuit for Catali, no recorded time. And apart from the check, it looks like 126.7, pardon me, to be precise. But it's going to be curious to see how they handle. It's going to be curious how they pass today, though, I think, Taylor. Talk us about how you think the passing will be done today, such as what we're seeing for these drivers in qualifying.
Well, a lot of passing opportunities will definitely be going down into turn one. Even though it's one of the more trickier corners to make passes, a lot of drivers will utilize that. And then, of course, when we get into the rhythm section of turns 4 through 8, a lot of drivers will try to utilize good braking opportunities to make the pass. And then a lot of drivers as well will set up in turn 10 to try to get a run down the front straightaway to complete passes before they get into turn 1. So those are some of the key passing areas that we'll keep an eye on throughout this race.
Absolutely, there's a lot of things to keep an eye on. As mentioned a few moments ago, lots of newcomers, some of them from the oval side. Drivers like Kenny Brady with real-world experience at tracks like Atlanta Motor Speedway on the short track side of things. Guys like Kian Raleigh Howell, lots of different drivers are getting mixed into the group. The highest of some of the oval experience guys is in the top 10, as you see on your screen in Brady.
He's getting ready to come around turn 10 right now to complete his lap. He might be able to pull something out. He's currently sitting in that 10th position. He may be able to improve, but he's got no one in front of him, so can't utilize any of the draft at this moment. As he comes across the line, he does pick it up a little bit. Nope, does not. Goes off course. Goes up over the hill right there. No problem at all. Just gets back into the garage, gets a brand new car, and continues on. I gotta say that
Going back to Hartley, though, he is currently 5th in qualifying so far, as that Excite racing machine tries to work its way around the racetrack to try and pick up pace. No one to draft with in front. However, there are a couple drivers lining up to try and get his draft. Jim Courtney, Kian Raleigh Howell amongst the drivers behind. What will Hartley do this time? Might have potentially got it off track on the sand. Let's see if the time counts this time by. Either way, slow, 123.33 seconds off the pace. So just, again, only a few more minutes for these drivers to record their final times on the racetrack. As mentioned, distance 80 seconds for the fastest drivers today. We are only seeing drivers as far back as about 2 seconds from first to 50th, just about.
That's really showing how competitive this field is when it's 50 cars and only 2 seconds separate the field. That shows a lot can happen. That shows a lot of things can happen during this race. 55 cars have entered this race, but few of them still have yet to qualify.
Yes, right now 51 drivers have set qualifying times on the pylon on the left side of the screen. Only 4 yet to go on track yet. Aiden Saunders, Edgar Santarelli, Alex Hunt, Jordan D. Robinson amongst those. As you're looking now at your driver currently 8th on the board, the 017, and that creative Red Bull machine. It's Tajano, pardon me, in that machine trying to pick up a little bit more pace. It looked like came out of the pits this past time by and does have Catali to draft off of here.
That's going to be a big help for him right there, as Javier is going to try to utilize the slipstream to try to gain a little bit extra time, and with not much left to spare, as about 30 seconds is left on the time for this qualifying session.
Tinoho trying to pick up a little more pace, 109 miles an hour to 110 is having to hit the brakes. Might have clipped the grass through Paddock Bend as the dying seconds of the session pass on by. And Tiano, 1:20.675 does increase the time. However, it doesn't gain a spot on the track. Still 8th on the grid, only a few hundredths quicker. Torres, though, also looking to bump up his time. He is 2nd right now, just a 10th off the pole. And Torres, go ahead. Pardon me there, Brady also coming along the racetrack right now amongst the drivers still in that fell towards the outside the top 10 to 12. Trying to get faster, 121 flat that time by 12th position. Budovic currently in first. Torres amongst the last of the drivers looking to take the checker. They have 90 seconds to finish their current lap times and then go from there.
It's going to be close for some of these drivers to get that final lap in. I believe Torres is going to be on the back half of the track. He might be able to make the time. Nope, he is going to come down pit road. He will not finish his lap. He is going to be comfortable starting in that second position, as Marcelo Pejon is coming around now for the final few turns. Let's see if he can improve. He's in the carousel.
Pejon, one of the most successful drivers last season, mind you, was in contention again in that championship. Won at Spa, major drafting track in Season 2. As the AMS machine comes towards Paddock Bend for the final time of the qualifying session. Going to try and record the time. Had a 1:25.5 last time coming out of the pit lane. This time, the Italian driver avoids the X's, going to try and cross the stripe. Instead, has himself hit the brakes before the stripe and the checker flag. Okay. I'm going to guess that is I'm gonna guess maybe at that last moment might have got the X because no timers recorded, it looks like, on our timing and scoring for that car.
No.
Either way, Taylor, it's a big field as we get ready to look at your SimRacing Studio starting grid. Want to enhance your SimRacing experience but don't feel spending hours doing it? SimRacing Studio creates plug-and-race system accessories and software to enhance your experience without any DIY effort. Go to www.simracingstudio.com for more information. But with that, it's time to look at your starting grid, a gigantic field, 50-plus drivers, with Maxim Bunovic going to be leading them to the green flag. Torres will start on the outside, with Racim Fazuli, in third position. Catali's in fourth. Hartley Pagnon rounds out the top six, with Juan Manuel Fernandez along with Tiaho in eighth position. Christian Lindroth in ninth, and a newcomer, Kian Raleigh Howell, rounds out the top 10, Taylor.
Starting in the 11th position will be Paolo Semejvic, followed by Kenny Brady in 12th. Brandon Hawkins will start in 13th with Arturi Satori in 14th. Mitchell Peak will start in 15th with Jonas Seegers in 16th. Steve Hefford will start in 17th with Jaroslav Sebela in 18th. Austin Johnston will start in 19th, and Christina Narsik will round out your top 20.
Another driver no more for the oval side of things. Anthony Burrows will start 21st, while Melina Mann will start 22nd in the green and black machine. Rest of the drivers getting lined up with Epperding in 23rd, Beard 24th, Alejandro Liero and Connor Lane 25th, 26th, Van Opstrow in 27th, with Vander Hayden 28th. Rest of the drivers getting to the grid. As you look at the rest of the drivers circulate on your screen, they're all lining up in their respective slots on the grid. Just a few moments before the green flag for these drivers. Again, 55 will be set to take the green flag, all from the starting blocks here today.
That's going to be the most interesting thing right there, Justin. All of these will be a standing start race. So 50 cars on this front straightaway getting ready to go. All I can say is expect maybe a little chaos as the green flag is out.
Lights are out, green flags waving. We're underway for Season 3 of Big C's MX-5 Challenge. And Bunovic off to a good start. Torres blocks the inside, with a 7 machine rides the outside. Early gear shift, though, opens up the bottom lane, for Catali. And this could be crazy. Drivers side by side battling into turn 1 of the season.
So far, very clean right now as a couple of drivers try to go 3 wide coming out of turn 1.
A big one in the back of the field in the 50s. Robinson involved. Rob Adams gets turned around. Viola involved. Casey Draco involved. The rest of the leaders, though, get by quickly and cleanly.
Looks like we have ourselves Maxim Bunvic still going to be out towards the front of the field right now as they're going through the final corners of
and we have one in the grass, pardon me. Fernandez, 7th place starter, way off the grass. More cars damaging the machines, though, heading into the opening part of the carousel. Couple drivers went off in the grass early on, including Shane McDowell. But the rest of the leaders, though, keeping it clean early on. Bunovic on track, Torres 2nd, along with Robert Hartley, who's moved his way up to 4th. Catali's held on to the top 5, Everyone else, for the most part, has kept it on track inside the top 15.
Well, Justin, I could say that's been a quite interesting first lap here completed at Summit Points Motorsports Park, as they are now coming down the front straightaway into turn 1. Bunovic has a great gap over the likes of Torres as they come in. Torres gets a little bit closer, about a car length separate the two, as we now see Racine Fezua.
Oh, trouble, turn 1. It's inside the top 10. Rally Howell involves it, but Kenny Brady is already damaged. Tian Ho involved, more cars getting bumped into the fencing. An absolute calamity. And it's been absolute calamity in the first lap and a half. Let's take a look at the GSRC replay.
As we see, there's Javier going off course, and there we see down on the bottom, Kenny Brady gets turned again, sent up into the hill and into almost outside the fence. And unfortunately, he went behind the wall.
Black flag for Rally Howell. Kian, as the 017, has been just given a black flag for avoidable contact for that incident you just seen on the replay quickly. Multiple cars, mind you, are already off in the garage area early on. This has allowed Bunovic and Torres to already pull away by a decent gap at the front of the field. Currently, the gap between the drivers, 0.3 for first and second. Another second, though, to Racine Fazoli. Fastest car that time by, though, was Robert Hartley, the 4th place machine, who is, you are watching from Torres in the battle for second.
For 5th, though, right behind them between Peugeot, along with the likes
of... More trouble, pardon me. A dive bomb and a half in 4 wide situations has just caused a 5-6 car incident. It was Ettore Satorio with the 18 machine who sent it in trying to get in the top 10, instead collects 4 or 5 cars. We are still running and going as more drivers park it.
And that's going to send Satori outside of the track by the looks of it as well, so he was probably have his day done. I tell you what, it's very difficult, Justin, to keep track of anything on this track because there's always something going on in just about every corner.
Yeah, this is absolute craziness. Absolute insanity early on in this race. But the top 4 are pulled away from said insanity, so let's follow along with Robert Hartley, though. He is in 4th position. Again, was the fastest car last time by, and Taylor has a potential opportunity to save some fuel and draft off the back end of the 7 machine.
They're going to try their best, as on the front straightaway, a car is off on the crash right there, as on the front straightaway. That's Sean Dotson in the 97. I don't know why he's not going to just tow with the car. He is in a very predicament place right now. He needs to just go ahead and park it, causing another accident if he ain't careful.
At least 10, 12 drivers had put in tow trucks, mind you, in the first 2 to 3 laps already. Some of those drivers already exiting the pit lane for reference sake. They do have 2 faster pairs available. But here's the battle for first position. All drivers on the bottom ticker. Pechnon, the next driver behind for position, though, is at least a few seconds behind after passing Catali. 4-car breakaway pulls away from the carnage, as it looks like the 7 of Fazuli wants to try and attack Torres here potentially.
He is really putting the pressure right now. Fazoli all over the back bumper of Torres, but also Bunovic, though, not able to pull away at all either from these 3 other drivers behind them. Robert Hartley, though, behind them in 4th, taking his time, about a car length separating from the top 3 as they make the run down to turn 10.
You can see them now heading through Paddock Bend. There's an estimated 26 more laps to go for all these drivers on the circuit as they continue to follow along. Lost time a little bit that time for Hartley, falling to the 120.3s. Everyone else in the grouping was either in the 6s, either in the lead part of the group, or if you're Fazuli, who's has been the draft, 120.2. Battle for 13 is heating up, though. Craziness has been popping up around that group, including a car coming out of the pit lane. Van Opstrow wants the position. Zero on the outside line, has some damage, and the blue and white machine, as Van Opstrow's AMS machine, passes on by.
Great pass by Steven Van Opstel as they come out of turn 1. He's now got his eye set on looks like to be in the 9th place car of Anthony Burrows, who is right in front of him in that GoPro 58 Mazda.
And look at this craziness, pardon me, Taylor, on the screen here. It's absolute calamity. This is again a mix of drivers that have taken fast repairs just behind now, and drivers on the lead lap. That can cause some absolute craziness as Mitchell Peak has already stopped on the bottom of the racetrack behind them.
He's really, look at that gaggle of cars right there as they're getting ready to head towards the carousel. Clifford Evans leading that group of cars right now as they come through the carousel. Nice and clean, single file so far. As we look through the rest of the field, here comes some more cars. I mean, it's now a train. I think they started to realize to settle down just a little bit and get through at least these 20 minutes or so.
Battle for the lead, heating up. Bunovich trying to defend as they pass by traffic. Torres can't get the run, though, as Fazuli gets back in line rolling with Hartley. They do get an extra driver to the back of the train for now, though. As Christina Nazurek had just came out of the pit lane behind them. But Bunovich is currently defending well. The thing is, though, with these MX-5s, Taylor, that could burn a lot of fuel as the lead car if you stay said lead car.
Yeah, and that's going to be very crucial that Bunovich might need to consider letting Torres by to save fuel. That way it's less fuel for him to put in the car come pit stop time, as we now see Racine get right on the back bumper of Torres as they go into the carousel. We see them take a little bit of a higher line compared to Bunovich as they're coming out of turn 4 into turn 5.
Working their way through the S's as let's look on board with Racine. That number 7 machine, red, white, and black MX-5. Does have a slight bit of damage, but isn't affected by it. Has been looking very comfortable. That machine in the draft so far has actually pulled away for the past couple times through the second half of the circuit, away from Hartley.
They have pulled quite a big gap. About 3 or 4 car lengths separate these drivers from Robert Hartley. Of course, Robert Hartley, though, he's able to save a little bit of fuel right now. I'm pretty sure he's taking it a little bit easy, not wanting to put too much pressure and wait till later in the race.
I agree with you on that, actually. With that, we've seen strategy calls early decided on. Look what's happening, though, with P19, because while 19 specifically is calm, every other car is absolute chaos. 20th position, side by side. Stevens trying to make a dive. RJ Smotherman trying to get a run. The 46 of Tiero Rasmussen ends up making contact. Multiple cars bumping. All of them keep it straight, though, in a 3-car incident.
What a save indeed by Smotherman, Rajin, and Kip Steven. I thought for sure one of them would have went into the grass. As we see now, the number 46 makes contact again with RJ Sutherman. Almost hip checks him as they go through that corner. I tell you what, that's some great driving by Sutherman, but I'm pretty sure he's a little bit fired up from that situation.
Yeah, this is, again, absolute craziness. Look at this on board. They're going to have an hour car on the Apex exit, too, they have to avoid in Sampson. But, it's now basically, how do I put this politely? It's become a survival race, almost, with how many drivers are trying to manage their way through traffic and have already gotten some type of damage or had to use a fast repair already in this race. Already, the gap from 1st to 33rd, for reference sake, is already 49 seconds. 34th is a minute back. There were only 40 drivers, a minute 35 seconds on forward at this point from how much attrition's already built up.
Yeah, one of the top 10 runners, Anthony Burrows, has already decided to come down pit road a little bit early, if I would say, though. So we'll have to keep an eye, see what he does later in this race.
Burrows did have front end damage on his car, the 58.
More contact in turn 1 right now between Kip Stevens and Rajin. Rajin tried to take it on the outside lane, but could not make it work. He loses the position to RJ Sutherman right now as they're going into turn 2.
And mind you, this is not even for points at this point at the moment. This is for 19th position that these guys are fighting like for the lead at this point. If you're one of those drivers, what would you be thinking in that kind of a situation, knowing, again, top 15 get points. Outside of that, it's a big 0 in the points column at the end of the day.
Right now, you want to try to get as close as you can in towards that top 15 if you need to, especially when the pit stop cycle starts coming around. So I'm pretty sure drivers will be competitive for that, as Austin Johnson is currently the final driver in that 15th spot, though. He's going to get by that 47 of Andy Hunter to take the 14th spot as they come in and Paddock Ben almost loses it, though, as they're side by side.
Yeah. going to go towards that direction. You see Hunter able to keep the spot, but the door is open for Ashley Beard, who's already got severe right side damage on the Excite Racing machine, trying to potentially outbrake, instead early brakes. Can Johnson hold on the outside though? No. As the Excite Racing machine makes the pass, opens up the door now for another car, and Yaroslav Sabola and his Yay Taco Fury Sim Sport machine.
He will easily get by the likes of Austin Johnson in that number 21. Another car right behind them, it's Vincent Vanderheyden in that number 24 black Mazda. And I'll tell you what, he is putting some pressure on the back bumper of Johnson as they're coming through turns 3 and 4.
Leaders are kept still line astern for the top 4. We stick with the battle on the screen as it continues to intensify. Again, this is for just the edge of the points window. Essentially, Hunter is now leading this group. The last time by, he ran in the 122s, everyone else in the 121s with the draft. That is about nearly on pace, if not a little touch quicker than the race leaders last time by, so they do have pace in their numbers. The question is, how long do you think they will stay this way with 27 minutes and 30 seconds to go on the clock?
Another black flag penalty given out.
P6 heating up on top of that on the track. Catali opens up the door for Powell Szymanek. Szymanek has opened up the door. Brandon Hawken, 5th in the points last season, who does mind you have damage, is trying to get by these drivers. The 99 of Brandon Hawken trying to bump draft the yellow and black Mazda in front of him.
He gives a good push right to the back bumper of Szymanek as they're now going through turn 4. He now looks to the inside. He has to worry about now Molina Man and Javier Tillano as Javier loses it coming through the corner. Molina Man back in 38th, a lap or so down now, trying to see if he can work their way back up to the field, but cannot keep up as Brandon Hawkins has nowhere to go right now.
Yeah, right now Hawken wanting to move up the pylon. In qualifying, was in just 13th position. Not the best of qualifying efforts for a driver who won at Mosport last season, as he ends up slipping and sliding and losing a couple tenths in the corner exit there. So trying to keep a 3-car tandem now for them. It was a 4-car tandem though at one point. Marcelo Pagnon had broken away from them a little while ago. One driver looking to break away now is Szymanek once again to the inside of Catali. Catali opens up the inside, loses one spot, loses a second to Hawken. Falls back from 6th to 8th.
Unfortunate right there, but I tell you what, looking through the rest of the field, so far no other major incidents on track as the top 4 went by Sean McDowell, who was off course but kept it on the track as well. Leaders, though, having a tough time going through lap traffic as Robert Hartley has closed that gap back up to the top 3 a little bit as they're trying to navigate through this lap traffic.
Yeah, and this group you're following along with is about to reach that same lap traffic. You're about to see that exact point. The drivers that are in front is Nazaric. Pagnon has already gotten through one of them. Then there's drivers like McDowell and Vila. They also have to maneuver around in this 4-car slippy slidey snake train. Oh, drivers that are also slippy sliding. Austin Johnson off the track, way off the circuit. And take a look at this from above on the GSRC replay as he nearly went off to Narnia.
Waiting to see for the contact right there. Austin Johnson still on the outside of that white and red car. As they're now going towards there. It's going to be a little bit tight right there. Just off. A little bit of contact into the gravel. Still waiting to see that contact right now. Here we go. There's the contact. Off into the gravel, into the grass. Has nowhere to go. Can't even find the track for a second. And can't cut through the course. Otherwise, there'll be a penalty. Has to turn right back around. Unfortunate for Johnson right there.
Meanwhile, if you go to 6, it is absolute calamity. Szymanek had tried to go in the sand to try and keep position on Brandon Hawken. Now they're bumping and banging, heading into the carousel. Coming out of the chute, all drivers able to hold on to it. But the SimRacing onboards machine from Trident Racing holds on to P number 7, a part of that snake. And that was a near moment there we've seen from that grouping. But they're fighting very hard just for 6th position in this group. They lost a second in the past lap to the leaders.
Yeah, and this is showing the importance as we see Powell lose a little bit coming out of paddock bend, how able to keep it under control, but loses about a car length between him.
Look on board from Man. Meanwhile, again, this is a lap car we're following with. As you see, watching the battle, just keeping an eye on the battle, which again might be a smart thing to do, nearly bumps into the battle. But you can also see from that, Catali's been pushing very tight through turn 1 every time, has gone up on that high line for the past 5 or 6 laps, Taylor.
Yeah, and that's going to cause a lot of issues for the tire wear on that car. And might need to consider braking a little bit early to help try to save the car a little bit and maybe even get a better run than the likes of Powell and Brandon Hawkins.
And as we're approaching this halfway point of the race, mind you, I want to ask your opinion on the strategy, mind you, because this is going to get interesting. Guys like Van Opstra have already pulled down to the pit lane this time by. But what do you do if you're some of these drivers? Mind you, again, you have to come in for a pit stop, at least for the fuel.
Yeah, and that's going to be the difficult area because it's such a large field. You do not want to try to get in traffic during these pit stop cycles. You want to try to have a clean track. We may see some drivers pit right now at the halfway mark. We may see some drivers pit in the next 5 to 10 minutes. It just all depends on how they feel comfortable going through this lap traffic. And as for our leaders, we may see them all pit at the same time.
We'll have to see. These are the leaders again once more. It's still a 4-car train. They haven't changed positions from the drop of the green flag. It is still Bunovic, Torres, Fazuli, and Hartley lined up in this single grouping. They have lost a few tens. We've also seen the sun start to come down, in fact, above the racetrack, you might have noticed, as the lights are now on the race car. Virtual time, 8:07 p.m. for reference sake. So this is also going to add a wrinkle here where they're going to have to not only think of that strategy, but think about how are they going to attack this track in the nighttime, depending on how quick the sun sets.
That's going to be very difficult, especially for a lot of these drivers. I mean, it's difficult enough to try to find your braking points in the daylight. Now it's going to be difficult in the night.
Craziness, P14. Sabella trying to hold on for now, but Stevens, Van der Hayden, and Hunter are amongst this grouping. Hunter in this span of a lap already lost the 3 spots in front, but they are shuffling like mad and catching up to Ashley Beard like mad as they all nearly ride the curves for this position.
Andy Hunter trying to go on the outside, take the long way around to try to get by the likes of the Vincent van der Hayden car, that number 24 Mazda, but cannot make the complete pass on it. He's going to try to utilize, get the slipstream, get right up to the back bumper as they come down this straightaway towards turn 10.
We're looking at van der Hayden right now. Should note Fernandez in 11th has just pit, so drivers in front of them are starting to duck down for their potential scheduled stops on the circuit. They're lined up, the drivers, for position, while Fernandez is up on the jacks getting tired. So the pit stop window is open with 20 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock, 16 estimated to go. Just left sides for Fernandez.
Left side tire, that could be a little bit critical for Manuel. Saves him time, and he'll have a little bit fresher rubbers than some of the drivers that he's been running with.
Whoa, trouble! Sabella's spun around. Sabella gets off the racetrack just in time, but nearly crashed. That was in that group we were just looking at. Contact with van der Hayden sent him around on a dive bomb.
Going in there, we know that's a calamity corner right there. Turn 1 sent him right around. Looks like he backs it up a little bit, does not cause any more incidents on the track as we're looking above right there. There we see the side-by-side. And then right as they're entering the apex, there's the contact, that number 15 Fury. Mazda not doing what it needs to do. Backs up the great driver etiquette.
And mind you, a lot of the drivers you're seeing again still have to pit with 15 estimated to go or less now. 14 this time by. The front group, meanwhile, is all lined up astern. Again, question is now, when do they pit? And how do you make sure you get to victory lane and not join, say, Robson there, who's in the trees?
Well, that's going to be the critical point for these drivers, determining when to come to pit road. We may see one of them peel off, maybe try to leapfrog the competition through the pit stop cycles. We may see all of them come down pit road at the same time and try to beat each other off pit road with pit strategies of fuel only, 2 tires, or 4 tires. That's going to be a very critical point for these drivers to consider.
And remember, Pagenaud is still 6 seconds back of this grouping as well. That can add a potential wrinkle who has been on their own. And about 3/10 slower lap. Let's go back towards Pagenaud for reference sake. Currently on his own lead traffic, does have a lap car just behind. However, the next group behind is only a few seconds back. The lead driver of that group, though, and Brandon Hawkins has just ducked down to the pit lane just this time by. Brandon Hawkins, go ahead.
He's going to come down pit road. Let's see what his strategy call will be right now, as we're waiting to see. Only so far, no tires going up. There's to go. 2 tires up, left sides only for the time being, as the fuel is getting added to this car. Waiting to see if 4 tires are going to come on. Nope, 2 tires stop only. That's going to be critical to see if he can catch up to the rest of the field, but he was going to drop probably a little bit close to outside the points.
And looking at Fernandez now, one of the drivers that pit not even close again to that picture for the battle, essentially. The drivers in front like Smotherman also ducking down here. But this leads to the question, we've seen already a few drivers go for 2 tire stops here. What about the option, say, to double stint? Because yes, you can lose time on a double stint. There is not a lot of time for these cars to roll around. They might be able to salvage their fuel time if they keep going. What do you think?
That is going to be a little bit difficult. I mean, it can work depending on how far you are up in the field. Maybe like the top 4 may consider double stinting the tires, as we now see what looks like Robert Hartley is going to come down pit road.
Yes, Hartley's just come down.
So
Hartley's come down, machine. Yeah, so the front runners are coming down. Pagenaud also followed him down into the pit lane. So the 2-time series champion, one of the first lead car driver to duck down. The Ashbury Motorsports machine of Pagenaud also following in. Left sides for Hartley. Pagenaud yet to lift up the jack, is on the jacks rather. However, there is a car that is also trying to hug them at the same time. Pagenaud a bit slower in the stall though, it looks like. 15 seconds to Hartley's 13.
Yeah, that's not going to be good. He will lose a little bit of time right there, Marcello and Hartley, though. Let's keep it a track, see what they can do. They're going to be probably around the top 10, right around there, to see how well they do.
We'll have to keep an eye. Lead pack is still rolling around. Bunovic is still the lead car. And Bunovic nearly slid off towards the grass. Torres is still leading, that is second in the group. Fazuli, though, has been essentially the dark horse of the race so far in a good position. And it's just been falling behind and saving fuel this entire run. Might be in a great position here.
Oh, here we go. There goes our 2 of our Racine, as well as, looks like it, Maxime Bunovic, as Torres will stay out.
So 2 of the 3 leaders have come in. Now it's the question, do they also get left sides? Both of them get in the stall quickly. Right sides for Bunovic this time. Right sides for Bunovic. And it looks like the 7 of Fazuli does not get off the jacks. And Fazuli is off and away first out of the stall.
That is going to be critical right there for that battle for the lead. Racine is going to try to pull the gap now over the likes of Bunovic. Bunovic doesn't get a good jump out of
but
pit
here
road
comes
at all.
Hartley. Here comes Hartley on the outside. Hartley gets to the net race lead. So Hartley with the 1 lap undercut takes the lead, but Fazuli nearly goes off to the grass.
Now the question is going to be, what can the likes of the new top 4 with Torres, as well as Powell and Catal do? As we now see a couple of drivers, I believe Ashley Beard is in pit road right now, the number 25.
So more drivers duck down to the pit lane. As you see, it's very busy. Those, again, are not cars that are taking fast repairs now. Those are the drivers amongst the lead group. Torres has just ducked down to come in this time in the backdrop in his yellow machine. Off and away goes the rest of the drivers in that lane. Sabella backing away from 26 at the stripe last time. Torres entering the stalls. Man also coming down. But here's the interesting thing. Hartley 13 seconds back at the cone. The question is it enough time to close up? Hartley working his way out of the paddock bend. Torres coming out of the stalls. Hartley, 100 plus miles an hour as Torres gets out of the pit lane. And now can Torres defend is the question. Here comes Hartley on the outside line. Hartley trying to get side by side. Look at this. On the side by side, Hartley takes the lead, but Torres dives in on the inside. Side by side through turn 1 as they try and duke it out for the race lead.
This is the battle for the race lead as we're still waiting for Cattell to make his final pit stop here for the race. Side by side they go. Hartley, Torres, as they're still going down towards turn 3. Hartley prevails as they make through the corner.
Hartley trying not to push up though, as Torres gets the better run that time as they go out of the wagon bend. Towards the chute they go. They have a lap car ahead though in Lee Martin. Martin stays up on the high side. Side by side open up for the lap car for third spot as Bunovic attacks Fazuli. Bunovic tries to squeeze down Fazuli. Fazuli though rides the curb as he keeps the third spot as Hartley and Torres get a 4-car length advantage for second and first.
Look at this strategy call, Robert Hartley. That is why he is a 2-time champion of this series as they're going down this straightaway, heading towards the paddock bend. Right now, Hartley has about a half a car length lead over Torres. Through the paddock bend they go on the front straightaway. Still waiting to see if Catali has made his pit stop. And I don't think he has yet.
Catali has just come in for his scheduled stop, so these drivers have all cycled up into the top 4. Pagnon still 7 seconds back of all this, while Bunovic dives his way to third. Can Fazuli try and cross them back over? No. Side by side again for the lead, though, as Torres gets the run on the inside of turn 1. Torres retakes the lead away from Hartley.
Notice that he went a little bit high right there, Hartley, but he's going to get back on the attack. Gets right up on the back bumper through turns 2 and 3 as they're making the run towards the carousel. Racine, though, trying to close the gap, but only about a car length separate between him and Bunovic. Into turn 4 they go. Bunovic hard onto the brakes through that section of the course as they're making their way to the carousel.
Bunovic led every single lap before the pit window opened up. He wants that lead back and quick. Better run that time in the middle of the carousel. Through the S's they go. It's a 3-car scrap now for the race lead. Torres tries to check them up on the exit of the S's. Hartley tries to get the draft, while Bunovic lines up behind the back bumper. Hartley looks to try and time it up. To the paddock bend they go. Has to hit the brakes though a slight touch harder. Checks up Bunovic as Bunovic falls back towards Fazuli.
Look at this. We might see Racine try to dive by him again into the inside of turn 1, but follows right back in the slot. So nose to tail for the top 4.
Bunovic, though, has the draft. Is the fastest of the cars in the draft, in fact, as Hartley breaks a touch earlier. Torres able to get a slightly better exit, though, as he gains about a half car length. About 8.5-ish laps to go, estimated 10 minutes, 43 seconds on the clock. Where do you go from here to try and battle for the win? How do you make the move? When do you do it, essentially, if you're those drivers hungry to take away the spot from Torres?
That is the most difficult question to ask because you know the draft will definitely come into play, especially on that French straightaway, as they're all nose to tail through that section, right bumper to bumper, almost contact with all 3 of those cars for the top 3.
They're all lining up on the bottom of the carousel, back to the top line. As Torres tries to draft them around, they still have Jim Courtney as well as a couple other lap cars. Clean sailing other than that on the surface as the sun continues to set down and the headlights continue to bright shyly in the back end of the ASR machine. Torres, bit later on the brakes, Hartley a bit more harder on the brakes, but either way they all are even on the corner exit. Now here's the question. Will Torres be able to defend? Inside line he goes, defensive. They'll go near 3 wide. Backing up is Bunovic as Hartley keeps the outside part of the track. Hartley tries to dive on the outside lane. Torres, though, the better run, but here comes Bunovic to cross him up.
Racine as well trying to close that gap. Almost got onto the inside of Bunovic and Hartley, but Hartley will be the biggest loser as he will drop to 3rd position with that pass by Bunovic.
Bunovic up to 2nd spot. And now, the Autosport merch machine tries to gain up time. The gap right now, again, is 0.2 of a second. Lap car ahead. They're going to reach him in the carousel as Torres overruns the entry. But Bunovich can't take advantage as they get back to the bottom side.
Bunovich trying the crossover move coming out of the carousel, but Torres shuts the door as I go through turns 5 and 6 and 7. This section right here is very difficult to try to get the rhythm going through there as we see the lap car move out of the way to let these leaders battle it out. Bunovich, though, right back on the back bumper as they make the way to paddock bend. He gets a little bit to the outside, but decides to think twice. Now dives to the inside, almost over the curb as they come out of turn 10.
Bunovich had to check up like crazy to make sure he didn't eat the back bumper of Torres, but he still gets the run down the front stretch, side by side, to battle for the race lead. Bunovich gets his nose in front, tries to make contact! Torres and Bunovich in the fence! Moving to the lead is Hartley. The leaders crash. Absolute calamity with 8 minutes to go for the top two.
That was something you did not want to see. Replay, here we go.
And take a look at this in the GSRC replay. As you see, I think Bunovich was trying to pinch him down there. I don't think they meant to make contact.
We look right there and see Bunovich gets close. We see also right there, Torres gets close. There's the contact. I think more contact between the likes of those two right there, and as we go into turn 3 and 4.
And that's going to cost them potentially this win because they lost 6-7 seconds from that situation. That might be the turning point of the night, to say the very least, all of a sudden, because that put Robert Hartley to the lead and Fazuli into second spot.
Well, Robert Hartley knows what he's doing. He is a two-time champion. He's going to go through turn 10, but he still has to worry about Racim as they come out of turn 10 and realize that the draft could still come into play with Racim. He's only a car lane separating these two drivers as they come down the front straightaway.
Gap is even back out. Hartley a little bit quicker, in fact, with the cleaner air at the end of the straight. Picked up an extra quarter car length as he takes the corner to the bottom side. Now it gets curious. Fazuli's been falling behind the back end of these drivers, has not really been the aggressor for much of this race. What do you expect to see from him now that he's in a situation, as we hear Torres has had to pit for the quick repair?
That is going to be detrimental for Torres right there, especially this early on in the championship where points are a big factor. But for Racim, this is a good opportunity to try to take the fight to the two-time champion as they're now going to get ready to head to the carousel. He gets a good run and good exit off there compared to Robert Hartley as they're now coming through the carousel. Let's see what he does. He gets closer than half a car length separating the two cars as they come up to turn 7 and 8.
Robert Hartley, one of the top MX-5 drivers in all of iRacing, trying to play defense as he carries up the speed to 100+ miles an hour, heading towards paddock bend once again. A little bit of a run again by Fazuli behind, but just 5 estimated laps to make the pass with 5 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock for the man in the number 7 machine. As you follow on board within the gap between the two is 2 tenths. He just can't seem to get the exact run he needs to get side by side with Hartley.
Also, that he could be biding his time.
On top of that, let's quickly go to P13 because this is all shaken up again. Kip Stevens is amongst this group who took a late pit stop, so has a little less fuel compared to the rest of the drivers. This is for the edge of the points, mind you. Connor Lane is currently on that bubble spot.
Ooh, as he goes off course a little bit there. Great save, though, but he may lose that position to Jordan Robinson, who looks to the inside. This is that final point position. Robinson makes the pass going into the paddock bend, washes a little bit wide. Connor Lane drops back to 16th.
Robinson moves up towards 15th as they pass by the flag stand. It is that red and brownish treehouse style stand you see on the left side of the track, where that's the start and finish line for today's finale. As Robinson rides his way on the bottom side and tries to play defense, trying to pull away, you can see Sebastian. Sebastian 122.9s at the moment and has had a quiet day. However, the quiet day has also been a clean day. 32nd to 14th.
I tell you what, who's had a very good run so far. We talked about him earlier. Brandon Hawkins. He pitted one of the first front runners in the top 10 to pit. He's now up to 4th position with all that.
For the lead, battle going on. Hartley loses it. Fazoli able to make the pass. quickly showing the replay because Fazoli finally got the run he was looking for the first time because Hartley overran the exit of Paddock Bend, I believe.
I believe he did, plus utilizing that slipstream, Racine was able to get that pass completed. Now has about a 2-car length lead over the likes of Robert Hartley as they're making the run towards the carousel.
Back towards them again. Fazoli, though, now has to play defense for the first time today, essentially. They also still have lap traffic ahead. Erpolding and Edu Vila are in front of them now by about 10 car lengths. Now this is going to be interesting how they manage the lap traffic. They've been very courteous to this battle for the lead specifically today. But there's a chance Fazoli might be able to try and draft. Ninth position, though, has just gone in a bit crazy. Eben has been able to make the move to get by Steve Heffert. And I believe we're going to take a quick look at this one because from what I'm hearing, it was pretty entertaining.
There we go. Clifford Eben looks to the inside going into turn 1. As we see the likes of that 77 get very close, washes up a little bit wide. Side by side they go. Red Momo Itali 72 car side by side still. They're going to be side by side for quite a little bit as Evans tries to hold the outside line but can't quite do it. As we see Hefford hold off and make the pass. And then onto the grass we see Evans go again and make the pass back.
There isn't an incident limit, so drivers can, if they're confident, make it as you look back towards live action once more on the racetrack. But just 2 minutes, 15 seconds to go as they continue to scrap it out for that position just inside the top 10. Eben rides the inside, outside Hefford. Hefford able to get the better exit, though, as the MoMA Italy machine able to make the pass and cuts off Eben. And it looks like Eben might be having a slight technical issue there that might throw him off. They also can't use the sand because man is there, so Hefford holds on to the spot. However, the lead's going to get interesting because they've just passed lap traffic. Estimated 2 to go for the drivers. Fazoli trying to defend. Hartley in second. Gap is 1.5 car lengths as they head towards the stripe one more time.
Robert Hartley trying to get as close as he can. Looks to the inside. Side by side they go as they go into turn 1. Who will prevail through this section of the course? Robert Hartley has the nose. Completes the pass. Let's see if he's able to hold it, though. Racine takes a little bit earlier braking and gets right back to the back bumper of Robert Hartley. Hartley, though, back up to the lead.
Racine, though, wants that lead back towards the back bumper again. Closing stages of the race. At least one more time around for the cars as they both use the rumble strips. Fazoli able to have a slightly better exit that time as they follow their way towards the chute and head their way towards the carousel. Trying to use the outside line. Hartley, though, defends it. Bit of a bigger diamond, though, for Racine as he's able to close the gap back up to under a car length.
Robert Hartley got real loose to that corner. That caused Racine to get right back up there to the back bumper of Hartley as they're coming through turns 6 and 8. Racine looks to the outside, now peeks to the inside. Let's see what he's able to do coming down this short chute towards turn 10.
Heading towards the paddock bend once more. Under 30 seconds on the clock. Can Racine make the dive? Tries to back up to get the proper run. Hartley bit him off across the rumble strip this time. Racine a little further back this time. White flag gonna come out this time as we're under 10 seconds left in the race. Racine farther back, gets the run, 3 miles an hour quicker, tries to dive to the inside, side by side, heading into turn 1. Fazoli tries to lock it up, tries to avoid contact as Hartley gets the run. Hartley keeps the race lead.
Robert Hartley did a great job defending that position. Racine now 3 or 4 car lanes separate them as they go up towards turn 2. Who is going to be able to prevail? Hartley, though, has the advantage with that gap, and it's all got to be keep it clean as best he can for this final lap.
And Racine lost a lot of time from the checkup, 8/10 there, trying to give the common courtesy. However, trying to charge it back. Hartley again loose, heading his way out of the chute in towards the carousel. Racine trying to do anything he can to gain up the time, but Fazoli still about 2-3 car lengths back. It might not be enough, though. Robert Hartley, only a couple more turns to go. He's a 2-time champion already in this series and is looking for career win number 5 in more than 2+ seasons of action. Can he keep it at the stripe is the question, though. One lap's corner. Hartley, the lead car. Hartley still on the corner exit. Here comes Racine Fazuli. Fazuli gets the run. Racine takes the lead. Racine will win the race to start off Season 3. Second place, Robert Hartley. Third place goes to Marcelo Pagnon. Man.
What a race indeed right there. You gotta love Mazda MX-5 Racing. Congratulations to Razim Fazuli.
Just before the stripe, Catali was able to get 5th spot away from Maxime Bunovic. Rest of the drivers either lining up in stride or battling for the last of the points. Van Elpstrow trying to defend Anthony Burrows. Clifford Eben also for position. But Van Elpstrow going to potentially and will come away with the top 10, while Burrows checks up and holds up into 12th position. Eben 11th spot. As the last of the drivers come across the stripe for the points, Robinson holds on to 13th, Stevens in 14th. Rounding out the top 15, though, Connor Lane and the Mr. Clean Machine. And Racine Fazuli able to come away with the win, and a big one. Coming away with the checker flag here. We're hearing Robert Hartley ran out of fuel on that last corner on that pass.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was the case because he was very slow, and unfortunately for him, I don't think he put enough fuel in the car by the looks of it.
And take a look at this on board from Hartley. This is, again, where he ran out of fuel in the final corner. Remember, he tried to extend it an extra lap.
And heartbreak indeed for Robert Hartley, but he did get the points in second place, so that is a good way to kick off the season, but a great way for Racine Fazuli to kick off the season with this win here at Summit Point Motorsports Park.
An absolutely thrilling moment here. But when we'll take a step aside, when we come back, we'll have the minus 273 post-race show here on the Global SimRacing channel. Stick around. Welcome back to GSRC's coverage of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge after a thrilling first round of the season here at Summit Point for the minus 273 post-race show. Whether it's on the real track or the virtual track, minus 273 has one goal in line to produce the best racing clubs to get the job done. With unmatched comfort, durability, and style, their clubs will leave your old ones in the dust. Find out how they can help you by visiting www.minus273.biz. But let's start things off with the turning point presented by Turn Racing. And this moment, in the final few laps of the race for the battle for the lead between Bunovich and Torres, completely broke things open, Burris. Absolute moment for sure, as you see on the screen. That shook up who was on top of the podium and how the points are going to shake out in the early going of Season 3 after what was an interesting situation. Turn Racing will merge the gap between sim sport and motorsport. Turn carries a wide variety of steering wheels to suit any and all of your needs. From advanced sim racing wheels to practical street wheels, they will surely have something for you. Check them out at turnracing.com. But with that, it's time to look at your unofficial race results. Racim Fazoli was the one who took the checker flag after Robert Hartley ran out of fuel coming out of the final corner to take his first win of Season 3. Robert Hartley still came away second, though, with Pejnon quietly running in third. Brandon Hawkin had a good points day. Fourth on the podium, on the standings today. Catali salvaged a fifth position. Bunovich finished in sixth after the situation, while Semanek in seventh. Fernandez came away eighth, while Steve Hefford and Steven Van Alpstroe rounded out the top 10 Taylor.
Clifford Evans will finish in the 11th position, followed by Anthony Burrows in 12th. Jordan Robinson will come home in 13th, followed by Kip Stevensons in 14th, with Connor Lane rounding out the top 15 with the points. Frank Sebastian will come home 16th, with Nick Carty in 17th, with Jaroslav Sebula in 18th, RJ Sutherman 19th, and Jonas Seeger rounds out your top 20.
21st position, Austin Johnson had an adventure. Finished off in 21st, while Vanderhayden in 22nd. Rest of the drivers finished one lap down or more. Theo Rasmussen, along with Brian Sabelski, Lee Martin in 26th, Casey Drake 27th. Lena Mann finished 28th, while Christopher Taylor 29th, and Odyssey Adams Jr. had a rough day. Adams Jr. 30th spot after starting in 39th on the grid.
Finishing 31st will be Celso Neto, followed by Martin Sampson in 32nd. Chuz Blocks Prin will come home in 33rd, with Simon Erpelding in 34th. Jim Courtney will come home in 35th, followed by Ian Robeson in 36th. Jaime Dalmas Torres, a tough break for him, leading pretty much a majority of this race. He'll come home in 37th, with the likes of Liam Sheen in 38th, Andy Hunter 39th, and Ashley Beard will round out your top 40.
Alejandro Liero finished 41st, while Nazarek finished 42nd. Rob Adams 43rd, Mikey Key 44th, with Saunders McDonald along with Tianjo 47th position. Main 48th, while Pekin Dobson rounded out the top 50. Again, most of these drivers finished their days early on the schedule. Cerati, Raleigh Howell, Lindriff, Kenny Brady, along with Edgar Santarelli amongst the DNFs. Alex Hunt did not make the starting grid for today. 56 cars entered today, but one conquered them all. Racim Fazoli, pardon me on the pronunciation there, came away with a big-time victory. Racim, how does it feel to take the checker flag in what was a crazy start to Season 3?
Honestly, it was amazing. Great racing by all the top four. It was super clean. It was really tight, but this is my first. That's the first. It was my second race in the Big C. The first time I'm here for real, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone.
Now talk about how you got prepared for this, because you were quick in practice, top 3 in qualifying. You were in the lead group from start to finish, essentially. How difficult was it to try and keep that pace to put yourself in this conversation for the checker flag?
It was really the draft and just keeping it clean, just hitting my marks, hitting all of my marks. I've been doing that all week, checking my marks, checking what I needed to do in order to have consistent laps. Maybe not the fastest, but good consistent laps. Then I just saved fuel the whole time. At the end of the race, I saw Robert. Robert was in front of me, but he was really slow. I thought to myself, maybe if I get ahead, I'll check what's happening because he was low on fuel. I got ahead. Then he got into my draft. He kept up in my draft. I told to myself, no, if I give him my draft, he's gonna save fuel. So I knew he did a lap without us, so that was a lap less than us. So then I took the gamble. I let him pass again, and then at the end of the finish line, he ran out of fuel, and I got past him.
Yeah, it was an absolutely crazy situation. Plus, on top of that, seeing what happened with Brunovich and Torres, on top of that, before, just a couple
Yep.
laps prior.
Yep.
But essentially, how do you feel now? Your second race in this series, how do you feel about how you potentially might shape out for the championship picture? Because coming into this season, Hartley, 4 wins, 2 championships. What does this win say, you think, to try and put yourself in that conversation to try and change that tide to try and be the first non-Hartley champion?
The first non-Harley champion.
Hartley won seasons 1 and 2's championships.
I'm working for it then. I'll work for it.
Let me put it this way, then with the next race, I should probably rephrase this here. It's Mount Panorama Circuit, a very interesting track with a lot of elevation changes. Your thoughts on driving these cars at Mount Panorama?
Yep. Unfortunately, I cannot come next weekend, but I love this racetrack. I'll be away next weekend, so I won't race. But I love this racetrack. I wish I could have. I'll get some practice because I need to keep my practice with this car, keep the juices going. But yeah, I wish I was there. Apparently, the series got at least one drop race, so this is gonna be my drop race, and I'll stack up the points for all the other races.
With that, is there anyone you want to thank for making your way to victory lane to start season 3?
Clifford, Clifford for the organization, Global SimRacing channel for the broadcast. Thank you guys. You guys have been awesome throughout the whole broadcast in this crazy race. Uh, everyone involved in terms of prizes, sponsors, everything, and everyone racing. Really, it was a clean racing. Even the back markers made it clean. Everyone got past. I didn't. My car was unscratched the whole race, and it's really rare for an MX-5 in iRacing. So yeah, thanks everyone. I'm looking forward to the next race here. It's been really fun.
Thank you very much for the time, Rasim. Congratulations on the victory. Razim Vazoli coming away with the checker flag. Just a second start in the series, as you heard him. A big one, for sure, and he's already showing excitement on Race Channel. He already says he feels like a pro sim racer after this kind of performance. Taylor, your thoughts on a crazy race?
Full of excitement, and definitely Summit Point Raceway delivered its racing here with these MX-5 Global Cup cars. I mean, and a very good job for Racine for able to stay in that top 4 and utilize pit stop strategies to take the win. Of course, was unfortunate for Robert Hartley, but a lot of heavy hitters taking some great unfortunate incidents, such as we see with Torres and Bunovich. But next week, though, at Mount Panorama, that track, if you think this was exciting, wait till next week.
Yeah, there are at least 5 or 10 danger zones I'm thinking of right now at the top of my head. It's going to be absolutely crazy once we go over to Australia. However, it's time to say goodbye here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'd like to thank GTR Simulator, Sim Racing Studio, Turn Racing, and Minus 273 for sponsoring today's racing action, as well as the series' title sponsor, Big C. We also like to thank series organizer Clifford Evan for organizing what has been an eventful start to Season 3 and what has been an exciting series for these MX-5 over the past year or so. We'd also like to say thanks to the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see those listed on your screen now. We'd also like to say additional thanks to Jude Laurent, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks again to the team today, and what was an exciting race. Taylor Burris and Sean Ambrose along with me here in the booth today. If you want to check out more action here on GSRC, including the upcoming races, you can find information on the globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSRCNL, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, or Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our Facebook, or to YouTube page rather, and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. As mentioned, the next race is at Mount Panorama for what should be an eventful round number 2 of season number 3. How will things fare in Australia? You have to tune in to find out. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen. You can check those out here on the iRacing Esports Network or here again on the Global Sim Racing channel, and make sure to mark them down in your calendar. Because until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.